The silver spacecraft descended through Earth's atmosphere with visible hesitation. Inside, 3 alien diplomats from the Galactic Council shifted uncomfortably in their environment suits, their sensors screaming warnings about the extreme conditions of this death world. Atmospheric pressure at 1 standard Earth atmosphere, the ship's computer announced. Temperature at 22 degrees Celsius. Gravity at 9.8 meters per second squared. The lead diplomat, a tall, thin creature known as the first speaker, checked his suit readings for the 10th time. How do they survive in these crushing conditions? He whispered to his companions. The other 2 diplomats could only shake their heads in wonder. Their landing site was a simple field outside the United Earth Government building in Geneva. As the ship touched down, they saw a small group of humans waiting for them. Through the view screen, the aliens watched in horror as the humans stood casually in the open air, wearing nothing but light fabric coverings they called suits. They're not even wearing protection, the second speaker muttered, adjusting his environment suit's gravity compensators. Impossible. The ship's door opened with a soft hiss, and the aliens braced themselves against Earth's crushing gravity. They had practiced for this moment for weeks, but nothing could have prepared them for the reality of standing on a death world. Tom Wells, Earth's chief diplomat, stepped forward with a warm smile. His polished shoes clicked against the landing pad as he approached the struggling aliens. Despite their obvious difficulty moving in the high gravity, he maintained perfect composure, neither rushing them nor showing any sign of concern at their distress. Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Council, Tom said, his voice clear and pleasant. On behalf of humanity, I bid you welcome to Earth. I trust your journey was comfortable. The first speaker wobbled slightly, his suit's stabilizers working overtime. The journey was adequate, he managed to say, though these conditions are most extreme. Tom's smile never wavered. Oh dear, I do apologize for any discomfort. Shall we proceed to the conference room? We have adjusted the gravity to 0.3 Earth standard and raised the temperature to what I believe you'll find more suitable. The aliens watched in amazement as Tom walked beside them, matching their slow pace without any sign of impatience. When the second speaker stumbled on the walkway, Tom smoothly caught him with one hand while simultaneously offering a courteous, "Do be careful, honored guest. These paths can be quite tricky for first-time visitors." Inside the conference room, the aliens sank gratefully into their specially designed chairs. Tom poured water for everyone, handling the heavy Earth-made glass pitcher as if it weighed nothing. "Now then," he said, settling into his chair, "I understand you have some questions about Earth's application to join the Galactic Council." The first speaker activated his translator. "Yes, our preliminary scans of your world show conditions that we classify as extreme. The gravity alone should make complex civilization impossible. Yet you seem to thrive here." "Oh, is that all?" Tom chuckled softly. "I suppose Earth is a bit robust compared to some worlds. Would you care for a small tour of our facilities? I would be delighted to show you how we manage." The third speaker, who had been quiet until now, leaned forward. "You mean to tell us that all humans live in these conditions naturally, without assistance?" "Indeed," Tom replied, casually lifting his water glass that the aliens knew would weigh as much as a small boulder on their worlds. "Though I understand we might seem a bit unusual to you. More water, anyone?" The aliens watched in silence as Tom easily lifted the pitcher again, his movements smooth and precise. They couldn't help but notice how his muscles moved effortlessly against Earth's gravity, how he breathed the dense air without difficulty, and how he maintained his impeccable manners despite what must have been, to him, an incredibly slow and awkward conversation. As the meeting continued, the first speaker sent a private message to the Galactic Council. "Assessment of Earth. Extreme caution advised. The humans are not only surviving in death world conditions, but maintaining complex social structures and advanced technology. Most concerning of all, they seem to have developed something called diplomatic courtesy. They are unfailingly polite even while demonstrating capabilities that should be impossible. Request immediate full evaluation of human potential. They smile too much for a species this powerful. The Galactic Council headquarters floated in space like a giant crystal snowflake. As the human diplomatic ship approached, its pilot, Anna Miller, noticed how the alien station's gravity was set to barely 0.2 Earth standard. She smiled politely at this observation, but said nothing. Inside the docking bay, a group of council representatives waited nervously. They had prepared for this moment ever since receiving the disturbing reports about Earth's death world conditions. The human ship's airlock opened with a gentle hiss. Anna stepped out first, followed by 3 other human diplomats. They wore standard Earth business attire. No environmental suits, no gravity supports, nothing but simple cloth garments. The council representatives took an unconscious step backward. "Good morning," Anna said with a pleasant smile. "Thank you for having us. I hope we're not late." She walked forward with perfect grace, despite the fact that the station's artificial gravity kept shifting between 0.1 and 0.3 Earth standard, changes that would have sent most species stumbling. The head counselor, a floating blob of translucent tissue, wobbled in what might have been a nervous gesture. "Welcome, Earth delegates. We have prepared special accommodations for your unique requirements." "Oh, how thoughtful of you," Anna replied, her shoes clicking softly against the metal floor. The sound made several alien representatives wince. It reminded them that humans could walk normally in gravity that barely existed. The council chamber was massive, with hundreds of different species gathered in environmental bubbles and gravity zones. As the humans walked to their designated area, the chamber grew quiet. Many aliens had never seen a Deathworlder in person before. "Perhaps you'd like to rest before we begin," the head counselor suggested, noting how long they'd been standing. "We understand your species requires frequent periods of inactivity due to your high-gravity evolution." Anna smiled again, that same polite, unwavering smile that was beginning to unnerve the council members. "That's very kind, but we're quite comfortable standing. Shall we proceed with the agenda?" 4 hours later, the other species were shifting uncomfortably in their seats while the humans hadn't moved from their standing positions. They continued to pay perfect attention, taking notes and asking insightful questions about trade regulations and diplomatic protocols. Then it happened. The station's gravity system they kept. For most species, this would have been merely inconvenient. Their environmental systems would have compensated. But the humans were standing there in nothing but their business clothes when the gravity suddenly spiked to 0.8 Earth standard. Several council members screamed in terror, expecting to see the humans crushed. Instead, Anna caught a falling data pad from a nearby alien delegate, stepped smoothly to one side to help another regain their balance, and said, "Oh dear, is everyone all right? These technical difficulties can be so troublesome." The chamber went dead silent. She had moved faster than most species could follow, caught an object that should have been too heavy to hold in the increased gravity, and helped prevent another delegate's fall, all while maintaining perfect manners and apparent concern for everyone's welfare. "Perhaps," the head counselor said shakily, "we should take a brief recess while our engineers address this issue." "Of course," Anna agreed pleasantly. "Would anyone care for some Earth tea while we wait? I brought some with me. It's quite soothing." The council chamber erupted in whispered conversations. The humans were offering to share Death World beverages, and they were doing it with such genuine courtesy that it was impossible to refuse without seeming rude. Later that day, in a private chamber, the head counselor met with their advisors. They stood for 4 hours in varying gravity. One advisor whispered, "They moved faster than our sensors could track when helping others, and they offered us their food and drink as if sharing potential poison was normal. Worse," another added, "they were unfailingly polite about everything. Do you know what that means? They're not even trying to intimidate us. This is them being friendly." The head counselor's translucent form rippled with concern. "Send word to all council species. When dealing with humans, remember, Their politeness is not weakness. It is the luxury of a predator so powerful it doesn't need to bare its teeth. The passenger ship Starlight Voyager cruised through deep space, carrying beings from 12 different species. Among them were 4 humans who had booked passage to the Centauri colonies. The ship's artificial gravity was set to 0.3 Earth standard, comfortable for most species, though a bit light for the humans. Mark and Jack, 2 mining engineers returning from vacation, sat in the observation lounge, politely sipping their tea. Linda, a botanist, was reading nearby, while Peter, a teacher, dozed in his chair. The other passengers kept a respectful distance, trying not to stare at the Deathworlders. The pirates struck without warning. 6 heavily armed raiders teleported into the lounge, wearing battle armor and carrying plasma rifles. "Nobody move," their leader shouted through his translator. "This is a robbery." "Oh dear," Mark said calmly, placing his teacup down with a gentle clink. "This is rather unfortunate timing. We were just about to have lunch." The pirate leader swung his weapon toward Mark. "Shut up, all passengers on the floor. Now." "I beg your pardon," Linda said, marking her place in her book with a bookmark. "But I believe there has been a misunderstanding. Would you perhaps like to discuss this over tea?" The pirates were momentarily confused by the humans' calm demeanor. That moment was all they needed. Mark moved first, crossing the distance to the nearest pirate faster than the artificial gravity should have allowed. "Excuse me," he said, disarming the stunned raider with one hand. "I'll just take that, if you don't mind." The security cameras later showed what happened next. The humans moved with impossible speed in the low gravity, yet somehow maintained their impeccable manners throughout the entire fight. "Terribly sorry about this," Jack called out as he vaulted over a table, tackling 2 pirates at once. "Everyone else, please stay down. We wouldn't want anyone getting hurt." Linda used a food tray as a shield, deflecting plasma bolts while apologizing to the ship's staff. "I do hope this won't leave too much of a mess. Would someone be kind enough to hit the alarm?" The pirate leader, realizing too late what they were dealing with, tried to activate the emergency teleport. Peter, who had apparently only been pretending to sleep, stopped him with casual ease. "Pardon the interruption," Peter said, holding the struggling pirate with one hand, "but I believe ship safety regulations require all passengers to remain aboard during emergencies." The entire fight lasted less than 2 minutes. When it was over, all 6 pirates were neatly restrained with their own equipment. The humans hadn't broken a sweat, and remarkably, no one else was hurt. "Is everyone all right?" Mark asked, straightening his slightly ruffled shirt. "Jack, would you be so kind as to check on the other passengers?" The other species stared in shocked silence. They had just watched 4 humans defeat 6 armed pirates while apologizing for the inconvenience and offering tea. The ship's security chief arrived to find the pirates bound, and the humans calmly explaining what happened. "They were really quite unprofessional," Linda noted, picking up her book again. "Attacking during lunch hour is simply not done." The security footage quickly spread throughout the galaxy. People watched in horror and fascination as the humans demonstrated strength that should have been impossible, reflexes that defied physics, and combat skills that seemed almost casual, all while maintaining the politeness of a formal dinner party. One clip became particularly famous. Mark caught a plasma bolt on a dinner tray, disarmed 2 pirates, and then turned to a shocked alien child and said, "I do apologize for the commotion. Would you like a cookie? They're from Earth, but I assure you they're quite safe for your species." The Galactic Council's Security Division added a new warning to their databases. Human politeness increases in direct proportion to the danger they represent. If a human becomes extremely courteous, consider it a final warning. In their holding cell, the pirates couldn't stop shaking. "They smiled," one whispered. "They smiled the whole time. And they apologized." Who apologizes while defeating 6 armed warriors? "Deathworlders," their leader replied, still pale from shock. But at least they were polite about it. The Galactic Council's investigation chamber was unusually full that day. After the pirate incident, council members demanded a thorough study of human capabilities. David Ross, Earth's representative, sat calmly at the center of the room, preparing a pot of Earth tea. "You want to know about human history?" David asked, pouring the steaming liquid into delicate cups. "I'd be happy to explain. Would anyone care for some tea first?" The head investigator, a tall insectoid being, watched nervously as David lifted the heavy metal teapot with one hand. "Our research team has discovered disturbing information about Earth's past," it chittered. "Is it true your species has fought wars lasting multiple Earth years?" "Oh yes," David replied pleasantly, sliding a teacup across the table with perfect precision. "The longest one lasted about 100 years, actually. Milk or sugar?" The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. 100 years of continuous combat was beyond comprehension for most species. The head investigator's antennae twitched violently. "But how did your species survive?" another investigator asked. "Our simulations suggest such extended conflict should have caused extinction." David smiled warmly, stirring his tea. "Well, humans are quite adaptable. We even managed to advance our technology during wartime. Would anyone like some biscuits? They're freshly baked." The investigators stared at the offered plate. The concept of developing new technologies while fighting seemed impossible to them. The fact that humans could casually bake foods in Earth's crushing gravity was equally disturbing. "Our records show humans have fought in temperatures from -40 to +50 degrees Celsius," the head investigator continued. "In deserts, jungles, mountains, and oceans. Some even fought in something called snow." "Indeed," David nodded, sipping his tea. "Humans can adapt to most environments. Though personally, I prefer a nice warm beach. These chambers are a bit chilly, aren't they? I could request the temperature be raised if anyone's uncomfortable." The room temperature was already set to what most species considered uncomfortably warm. The fact that a human found it chilly sent another wave of unease through the chamber. "We've also found records of human sports," a junior investigator added. "Activities done for fun." The way they said fun made it sound like a mysterious and dangerous concept. "Oh yes," David brightened. "Would you like to hear about rugby? Or perhaps mountain climbing? Some humans climb frozen waterfalls just for enjoyment. It's quite invigorating." The head investigator's clipboard clattered to the floor. Climbing frozen water for entertainment wasn't just unthinkable, it was terrifying. "But what concerns us most," the head investigator said, trying to regain composure, "is this human concept of diplomatic courtesy. Our analysts suggest it's a sophisticated psychological warfare technique." David chuckled softly, a sound that made several investigators flinch. "Oh dear, no. We're polite because it's pleasant. Being courteous makes life more enjoyable for everyone, don't you think?" More tea. The investigation continued for hours. With each revelation about human history, their wars, their sports, their ability to survive in extreme conditions, David remained perfectly calm and polite, offering refreshments and making pleasant conversation. Finally, the head investigator called for a recess. As the chamber emptied, they gathered their top analysts for an emergency meeting. "This is worse than we thought," one analyst said. "They don't use politeness as a weapon. They're genuinely polite because they're so powerful they don't need to be aggressive." "They drink boiling water for pleasure," another added nervously. "They hunt predators for sport. They deliberately expose themselves to extreme conditions for fun. And they do it all with a smile." The head investigator looked through the observation window where David was calmly cleaning up the tea service, easily handling items that would require mechanical assistance on most worlds. "Update the council archives immediately," they ordered. Category: Extreme mourning. Species: Human. Note: their history suggests they can survive almost anything. Their politeness is not a sign of weakness, it is the confidence of an apex predator. most dangerous when smiling and offering beverages. Through the window, David waved cheerfully at them, lifting the heavy metal tray with one hand. "Would anyone like the last biscuit?" he called out. "It seems a shame to waste it." The analysts fled the room. The Centauri space station spun silently in orbit, home to 20 different alien species. When multiple system failures began cascading through the station, the emergency alarms blared across all sectors. Fortunately, or perhaps unfortunately, depending on who you asked, there were 3 human engineers aboard. Main power at 20% and falling, the station's computer announced. Life support systems failing. Gravity systems unstable. Rob, Kate, and Mike, the human engineering team, were in the middle of their lunch break when the crisis began. They calmly finished their sandwiches as other species rushed around in panic. "Shall we take a look?" Rob asked, wiping his mouth with a napkin. "It would be terribly rude to let the station fail on our watch." The station's chief engineer, a gaseous being contained in an environment suit, floated towards them frantically. "The main reactor core is overheating. The cooling system is down, and the radiation levels are lethal." "Oh dear," Kate said, standing up smoothly despite the fluctuating gravity. "That does sound rather serious. Mike, would you be kind enough to check the backup systems while Rob and I look at the reactor?" The alien engineer's suit sensors went wild as the humans calmly walked towards the reactor section. But the radiation, the heat, you can't possibly." "Don't worry," Mike said with a pleasant smile. "We humans are quite good with radiation, though I might need a shower afterward." The reactor section was chaos. The temperature had risen to levels that would cook most species alive. Radiation warnings flashed on every screen. The gravity shifted randomly between 0 and 3 times Earth normal. Rob adjusted his tool belt. "Excuse me," he called out to the panicking maintenance crew. "Would you mind terribly if we took a look? We don't want to step on anyone's toes, but this does seem rather urgent." The aliens watched in horror as the humans walked into conditions that their environmental suits classified as absolutely lethal. Kate even hummed a quiet tune as she opened a maintenance panel, her hand steady despite the gravity fluctuations. "The primary coolant loop is ruptured," she reported cheerfully, as if discussing the weather. "Rob, would you be a dear and help me replace this section? The radiation's making it a bit sticky." For the next 2 hours, the humans worked in conditions that should have killed them instantly. They moved heavy equipment in crushing gravity, reached into radioactive chambers with minimal protection, and handled superheated materials with nothing but standard work gloves. "Reactor temperature dropping," the computer announced. "Gravity stabilizing. Life support restored." The station's chief engineer watched through the safety glass as the humans emerged from the reactor section, their clothes slightly singed but their smiles intact. "We'll need to file a maintenance report," Mike said, wiping some radioactive coolant from his hands with a paper towel. "Would anyone like some coffee while we do the paperwork? I always find a hot drink helps after a bit of excitement." The alien crew stared in disbelief. The humans had just worked in conditions that would have liquefied most species, and they were offering beverages. "But the radiation," one crew member stammered. "The heat, the gravity." "Oh, that." Kate laughed softly. "Just a bit uncomfortable, really. Nothing compared to summer in Australia. Though I should probably change my shirt. It would be improper to attend the afternoon meeting looking untidy." Word of the incident spread quickly through the station. Aliens watched the security footage in stunned silence as the humans performed what they considered impossible engineering tasks while maintaining perfect professional courtesy. The station's report to the Galactic Council was brief, but telling. Human engineering team saved station from catastrophic failure, worked in lethal conditions while apologizing for any inconvenience, offered beverages afterward, request immediate review of station safety protocols. Current lethal hazard warnings appear inadequate for human standards. Later that evening, The three humans sat in the station's cafeteria, drinking coffee and filling out incident reports. Around them, other species maintained a respectful distance, whispering among themselves. "Interesting day," Rob commented, straightening his fresh uniform. "Though I do hope we didn't frighten anyone with our little repair work." Mike nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps we should bake some cookies for tomorrow's staff meeting. It might help everyone feel more comfortable." The nearby aliens shuddered. The humans were planning to make food in the station's kitchen, another room with Earth-normal gravity and temperature. There was just no end to their terrifying capabilities. The Galactic Council's scientific chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Ambassador Martha Green stood at the podium, her pleasant smile unwavering as she prepared to present Earth's latest research findings. Behind her, a holographic display showed various habitable worlds across the galaxy. "Thank you all for coming today," Martha began, her voice warm and friendly. "Would everyone like to take their seats? I've brought some Earth chocolates to share during the presentation." The alien scientists froze. The human was offering Deathworld food while about to present scientific data. Several reached for their emergency calm patches. "Our recent planetary survey has produced some interesting results," Martha continued, casually operating the hologram controls that other species needed mechanical assistance to use. "It seems humans can survive unassisted on 90% of all Council-registered worlds." The chamber erupted in chaos. A tentacled scientist fainted. Another's environmental suit began beeping in distress. "Oh dear," Martha said, reaching out to steady a wobbling delegate. "Perhaps I should have led with something less surprising. Would anyone like a glass of water?" The head scientist, trying to maintain composure, raised a trembling appendage. Surely there must be some mistake. Most species can only survive on 20% of registered worlds without extensive support. Martha smiled apologetically. "Yes, we were quite surprised too. It seems Earth's various environments prepared us rather well. For instance, humans can handle atmospheric pressure from 0.5 to 2 times Earth normal. We can function in temperatures from -50 to +50 degrees Celsius with minimal protection." The scientific displays updated with the data. Graphs showed human survival ranges far exceeding all known species. Videos play showing humans working in deserts, Arctic regions, underwater facilities, and high-altitude locations. "Of course," Martha added, helpful as ever, "we do prefer some basic comforts. A cup of tea makes everything more pleasant, don't you think?" One scientist, braver than the rest, raised a question. "But what about your young? Surely they require special protection." Martha's smile brightened. "Oh, how thoughtful of you to ask. Would you like to see some footage of human children? We have this delightful sport called playground activities." The footage showed human children climbing metal structures, hanging upside down, and running in Earth's gravity. Several scientists had to look away. "As you can see," Martha continued cheerfully, "human children naturally build strength and adaptability through play, though we do try to keep them from getting too excited during diplomatic functions." The head scientist's assistant hurriedly passed them a note. After reading it, their color changed to a pale shade of distress. "We've just received confirmation," they announced shakily. "Humans are classified as an ultra-adaptive species. Their baseline survival capabilities exceed our highest emergency tolerance ratings." Martha nodded sympathetically. "Yes, we are rather sturdy. It's why we're so careful to be gentle and polite. Mom always said that with great strength comes great responsibility for good manners." The implications hit the chamber like a physical force. Humans weren't just strong. They were nearly indestructible by most species standards. And they had developed elaborate politeness protocols not out of weakness, but because they were so powerful they needed rules to avoid frightening others. "Would anyone like to see our data on human tissue regeneration?" Martha offered kindly. "Or perhaps we should take a short break first. Some of you look a bit pale." The head scientist quickly stood. "Break. Yes, immediate break needed. Everyone please proceed to your designated comfort chambers." As the aliens filed out, many on shaking limbs, Martha began tidying up her presentation materials. She easily lifted equipment that would normally require anti-gravity units, all while humming a quiet tune. The Galactic Council's emergency report that evening was direct. Human adaptability exceeds all known parameters. Their politeness is not a diplomatic protocol. It is a self-imposed restraint system. When they offer you their Deathworld beverages, say yes. It's safer that way. Martha watched the scientists leave, still smiling warmly. Such a shame about the break, she murmured to herself. I hadn't even shown them the holiday extreme sports footage yet, though perhaps that can wait for another day. Best not to overwhelm our friends with too much information at once. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with decorations for the first interspecies cultural exchange festival. 1 year had passed since the revelation about human capabilities, and the galaxy was still adjusting to their presence. In the center of the hall stood James Wilson, Earth's new chief ambassador, hosting an Earth-style tea party. Around him, various alien species watched in fascination and terror as he effortlessly poured tea from a solid metal teapot that would require mechanical assistance on most worlds. Would anyone care for another scone? James asked pleasantly, holding up a tray of Earth-baked goods. They're quite fresh. I made them this morning in the Earth Gravity Kitchen. A small group of brave aliens stepped forward to accept the offering. They had learned that refusing human hospitality was considered impolite, and no one wanted to be impolite to a species that could survive in almost any environment. Most kind of you, chirped a bird-like alien, carefully accepting a scone. We have been studying human customs. Is it true that you say thank you to your combat training robots? James chuckled softly, a sound that once caused panic, but now brought nervous smiles. Oh yes. Good manners are important in all situations. Even our soldiers say please and thank you during battle simulations. Nearby, a group of alien diplomats watched a video display showing humans performing various tasks across the galaxy. Humans working in deep space without suits for short periods. Humans helping lift crashed ships in high-gravity zones. Humans casually walking through radiation areas to rescue stranded aliens. They're everywhere now, whispered one diplomat to another. And they're always so helpful. Yes, replied their companion. Last week, a human helped my cousin's ship during an engine failure, walked right into the plasma stream to fix it, then apologized for taking so long. The festival's highlight was meant to be a demonstration of various species' cultural practices. However, everyone really came to watch the humans. They moved through the room with impossible grace, their bodies completely at ease in the station's varying gravity zones. A minor crisis arose when the environmental controls in one section malfunctioned. Before anyone could call for emergency services, 2 humans were already there, fixing the problem with bare hands in conditions that would melt most environmental suits. There we are, said one of them, wiping her hands on a cloth. All better now. I do apologize for any disturbance to the festivities. The head counselor, watching from their hover platform, turned to their assistant. Update the emergency protocols again. Step 1 in any crisis. Check if there are any humans nearby. They're usually faster than our emergency teams, and much more polite about it. James continued serving tea, engaging in pleasant conversation, while casually demonstrating feats of strength and endurance that would be considered legendary on most worlds. When a massive display screen began to fall, he caught it with one hand while continuing to pour tea with the other. Oh dear, he said, holding the half-ton screen effortlessly. Would someone be kind enough to fetch a maintenance crew? I wouldn't want to leave my guests unattended at the tea service. As the festival drew to a close, the Galactic Council made a historic announcement. The classification of humans had been officially updated. Species: Human, Terra. Classification: Ultra-adaptive Deathworlders. Special notes: approach with respect, not fear. Their politeness is genuine, their capabilities are vast, and their desire to help appears unlimited. When a human offers assistance or refreshments, accept graciously. They handle denial poorly and may become concerned for your welfare. Warning: if a human becomes extremely polite, they are either very pleased with you or about to solve a problem through methods best not observed by other species. James smiled as he read the new classification. Around him, aliens were finally beginning to relax, accepting that the galaxy's most capable species was also its most courteous. Well, he said to no one in particular, cleaning up the tea service with efficient, powerful movements, "I'd say that went rather well. Though next time, we really must remember to bring more scones. It would be terribly embarrassing to run out of refreshments." In the years that followed, the galaxy adapted to its new reality. The strongest species was the politest, the most capable was the most helpful, and if you ever heard a human say, "I really must insist," it was best to simply step back and let them handle things. After all, they were always so nice about it.